You may be familiar with the Dilbert series of cartoons. They're often about life in business, and they have a lot of management stories to tell as well. So here's one of my favorite Dilberts. And so if you're not familiar with the cartoon, this guy's the boss here. And these are employees. They're actually engineers who design stuff in this particular business. So the boss is saying, we've got a new strategy. And our strategy is to lower our price. And if we drop price, then we'll get more people to buy our products. So that's the new strategy. And the employees are commenting upon that. And this one says, well, this is Dilbert actually. Dilbert says, so our strategy is to start a price war. And that means drive our profit margin down to zero by having lower and lower and lower prices. Right? So if we lower our price, the competitors will lower their price, then we'll lower our price some more until we're not making any profit at all. And so he's objecting to the strategy. And the manager said, well, it made good sense when we were at the executive retreat, and to which the other employee is wondering if there was alcohol involved, and that's why it made good sense. Strategy. Strategy is an important part of the planning process of management. But certain kinds of strategies make more sense than others. So, what a business is looking for is what we will call a sustainable competitive advantage. Sustainable competitive advantage. And now, a competitive advantage comes from being able to use resources in such a way to give value to customers. More value, in fact, than the competitors can. So using resources in some way, whether that's physical resources or natural resources or human resources, to create a product in some way that gives better value for customers. But it has to be sustainable, or at least we would like it to be sustainable. So not only do we get an advantage over the competitors, we'd like it to be something that we can hang on to, that will last. So in order for that to happen, it needs to be something that the competitors cannot easily copy, cannot easily duplicate. And so the point of the Dilbert cartoon was that a low price is not a sustainable competitive advantage, because your competitors can cut their prices as well. So what we want is something that's going to last. We want an advantage, a competitive advantage that can't be copied by the competitors. So how does a business get a sustainable competitive advantage? Well, it does so by creating value for customers. And businesses can create value for consumers in any of three ways. Make it easier for buyers and sellers to get together. For example, eBay does that very well. If you want to sell something, you can list it on eBay. If you want to buy something, you can go look for it on eBay. It makes it easier for those buying to meet up with those selling. That's referred to as reducing transactions costs. So that's one way to create value for customers, by making it easier for them to find sellers. Or another way to create value is to have what's called team production. You can use specialized equipment. You can use specialized labor. And instead of trying to do all of everything yourself, instead of, for example, trying to build your own toaster, for example, suppose you wanted a toaster, you could build one yourself, but that would involve going out and mining the iron ore and then having to smelt it down and then creating the mold for it. You need all the heating elements and all that. Tremendously complicated. But a business that makes toasters can actually specialize. They have specialized equipment for that. They have people with special skills at making toasters. In fact, the process of making a toaster is broken down into lots of different businesses, right? Because there's the mining business, there's the oil business, that you need oil to make the plastic. There's different kinds of mining, the iron ore or the copper for the heating elements. So there's all sorts of specialized businesses that go into making a toaster. They have specialized workers. They've got specialized equipment like the furnaces that you need to heat up the iron ore to get the iron out of it, the big earth-moving equipment to do the mining, the molding, the people who know how to put all these parts together. So it's a lot less expensive if you can use team production. And then giving customers what they want, producing a product that people want, certainly creates value for those customers. So businesses create value in one or more of these three ways, and they do so based on a really important concept called a core competency. A core competency is something that a business does better than its competitors, something that it's better at. And if it's better at it than its competitors, then that turns into a competitive advantage, a way in which it can make more profits, make big profits over a long period of time. So a core competency, thing that the business does better than anybody else. Walmart has a core competency. Walmart's core competency is that it's really good at what technically is known as logistics. That is, Walmart's really good at getting products to the shelves when people want them, but not having too many products on the shelves at any time because they're just sitting there. Walmart's really good at getting products to where they need to be when they need to be there. And my favorite story about that, and this is a true story about Walmart, is Walmart knows from experience that when there's a hurricane coming, and this is particularly true for the Gulf Coast of the United States, Alabama, Mississippi, the panhandle of Florida, there are a couple of things that people go out to Walmart and buy in much greater quantities than they normally buy from Walmart. And you maybe can take a quick guess at things like ice or milk or bread or batteries or candles. And none of that's true. Those are things that certainly people might buy, but there are things that they buy in much greater quantities than usual at Walmart when they know there's a hurricane coming, and that is strawberry Pop-Tarts and beer. Walmart knows that. And so when there's a hurricane predicted, they ship a lot more strawberry Pop-Tarts and beer down to their stores along the Gulf Coast. Walmart's really good at getting the right products to the right place at the right time. Much better at it than its competitors are. That's Walmart's core competency. And core competencies lead to competitive advantage. There are two main kinds of competitive advantage. One of them is cost leadership. So cost leadership is a kind of competitive advantage where a business is able to produce the same quality product as its competitors, but do so at a lower cost. So at lower expense, you can produce the same kind of thing, the same quality of thing that your competitors can produce. How could you do that? A couple possibilities. Maybe you own some particular resources that are really useful for producing this product. For example, Alcoa, the aluminum company of America, in order to make aluminum, you need phosphate. And at one time, Alcoa owned all the phosphate mines. So they had control over a resource. That gives them a competitive advantage. In baseball, so this is a little bit esoteric baseball thing. In baseball, there's a particular kind of mud, particular kind of dirt that is used to rub up the new baseballs so they aren't as slick. There's one company that basically has the only place where you can get that particular kind of mud or dirt. That gives them an advantage, a competitive advantage over another business that would like to provide some kind of substance to make baseballs less slick. Or maybe you got some kind of knowledge. Maybe there's something that your people know that others don't. Maybe you have smarter people, or maybe they're better designers or better engineers. And so they're able to design a production process that is better. Or maybe you've got a training program that gives people the skills they need better than some other business. So a cost leadership. You can produce at lower cost than the competitors. And if you can produce at lower cost, then you can do one of two things, maybe both, one of two things. You can sell at the same price as your competitors, but because it costs you less to make it, you can make a bigger profit as a result. Or you can sell at a lower price than the competitors. And selling at a lower price than the competitors means you can take away their customers. Now this is the one piece of truth back in that Dilbert cartoon, but you can't just lower your price because the competitors can copy. But if you can lower your price because you have lower costs, then the competitors can't copy. This way you can lower your price and you can still make a profit as opposed to lowering price and losing money. So the Dilbert idea wasn't completely stupid, but it would have to depend on having a cost leadership competitive advantage. The other kind of competitive advantage is called product differentiation. Product differentiation means that your product stands out in some way from the competition. Your product is better in some way, or it's different at least in some way. So maybe it's got higher quality, maybe it looks better, maybe it's got more features than the competition does. Maybe it's more reliable. Maybe your network has greater coverage. Make your product stand out in some way from the competition. Make it better in some way. And if you do that, then you're going to bring in more revenue for the business. You're going to bring in more revenue because people will be willing to pay a higher price because it's a better product. You'll bring in more revenue because people buy more of it because it's a better product. So, a business needs to identify what its core competency is, and then its core competency leads us into what its competitive advantage will be, whether it is cost leadership to keep expenses low or product differentiation to bring revenues up. And knowing what a business's competitive advantage is will help it decide what strategies it should use that lead it to make big profits that it can sustain over a long period of time.